Hello, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm reacting to England's 1-point defeat to Argentina at Twickenham. I'm here at Twickenham. I was watching the game pitch side. I've just spoken to Jack Van Portvliet and Eddie Jones. So I'm going to be giving you my reaction to the game. A really disappointing result, but I'm going to explain why, in my opinion, it wasn't as bad as some of the defeats we've seen in the Eddie Jones era. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and drop a comment down below. Give me your thoughts. I'd imagine there is going to be a lot of unhappy England fans in the comments, but let me know. I always love to hear from you. All right, let's get into it. So, Argentina 30, England 29 the scoreline, a repeat of the scoreline that we saw yesterday in the Autumn Nations Series where France won at home against Australia. Here, Argentina have come and done a job on England, the first time they've beaten England since 2009, the first time they've beaten England at Twickenham since 2006. And I've had a quick look on social media, which is never the best barometer for a reaction to these kind of results. A lot of unhappy England fans based upon what I've read so far, and I do understand that. It wasn't the best test match. The conditions before the game and all this morning in southwest London were absolutely terrible, so it was quite a slippy ball, a lot of skill errors we saw. But I thought Argentina came and did exactly what we would expect them to do. Their defence was really, really strong. They made life difficult for England. They kept themselves in the game even whilst England were playing some good stuff at times. And ultimately, they got the victory. Now, if we want to look at this in the negative sense, it's England's 5th defeat already of 2022. I think their record amount of defeats was 6 a couple of years ago, also under Eddie Jones. First time Michael Cheika has got the better of Eddie Jones in the coaching department as well. So look, I fully appreciate that as a start to an autumn, this is not what England would have wanted to see. But I also think that it was quite basic things that were the reason that they didn't get the result. I'm going to come on to the attacking game in a moment, because I'm sure loads of fans are going to say England didn't create enough again in an attacking sense. And whilst that is possibly correct, this was never going to be a game where we saw England bursting through all the time, running lovely strike phase throughout the whole game. It was always going to be an arm wrestle. That's what Argentina do. They bring discipline, they bring physicality, and they did that today. And at times England dealt with it, at other times they didn't. It resulted in a close game, and it resulted in a 1-point defeat. But the areas of the game that England will be able to improve on is discipline and accuracy in really small but specific parts of the game. For example, there are a number of times in that first half where England, either when they scored the try through Joe Thockner-Singer or they kicked penalties, and then immediately from the restart, they didn't collect the restart, they knocked it on, they gave Argentina ball, they gave them field position, and then England's discipline let them down, and Argentina were immediately able to get their own pressure going on the scoreboard. That's really basic, it's really poor, it should frustrate England fans. But surely that's something that they can fix quite easily, I would have thought. Where I would be most disappointed from an England perspective, for me, was that moment after half-time, where England were winning at half-time, and then Argentina came out the traps, scored a couple of quick tries, and then England found themselves actually down by 8 points on the scoreboard. They were able to come back into it and take the lead again, but it was that period where England just lost control of it, and you can't do that at this level, in my opinion. Let's talk about some of the performances as well. Joe Thockner-Singer, I've said on this channel before, in my opinion, he's not an international calibre player. We haven't seen it from him. His try record internationally is really, really good. I think he scored his 13th try here today. And actually, I kind of could see more what he brings to the team. Given his size, I would still like to see more. But the way that they were able to use him off a strike move, off a scrum, where you had the option of Tuolangi inside, you have the option of Vunipola picking up from number 8, all of a sudden you've got this other real physical option coming off his wing. And he did it well, and he took his try really well, because he didn't just burst through the defensive line. He had to kind of pivot and spin to dab the ball down. I actually thought it was a really nice finish, and perhaps I saw more why Eddie Jones sees something in him. There's a lot of competition on the wing, but let me know in the comments down below. Am I being too kind to him there? Or actually is there something of how he could work in a combination in the back three? Elsewhere for England, let's also talk about Jack Van Poortvliet, the scrum half who was so impressive in Australia. The way it works for us in the media is before the end of the game, we can message the press officer because I was working for TalkSport, who are rights holders, and we can say the players that we want to speak to. And we said either Joe Thockensinger or Jack Van Poortvliet, and they gave us Jack Van Poortvliet, and he was a really engaging, really interesting person to speak to as a guy who is new in this England squad. He first came into it in Australia, was really impressive, and immediately he gave them something different coming off the bench. He spotted a gap just off to the side of the ruck. He burst through, made a beeline for the try line, got tackled, but his momentum took him over and scored a try, immediately got England back into the game. I was impressed with his contribution and impressed with just how he held himself, really. And he's one of those guys that you think he hasn't been in the team very long, but already to me he feels like he deserves his place there. He looks at home in an England shirt, which is really important at international level. Elsewhere in terms of the scrum half, Ben Youngs, did we see enough from him? I'm just not sure we quite get the zip we need from Ben Youngs anymore. I've been a big advocate for Rafi Quirk. I know he played for Sale this weekend and he looked like he possibly picked up an injury, maybe a broken wrist or something. Wait to see what happens there, because that would be gutting, because he's a guy that's already had issues with injury, but he's also a guy, I think, as I've said before on this channel, for me he's England's best 9 going forward. So I'll be gutted if he has got an injury, but Jack Van Poortvliet, it's a big thumbs up. Elsewhere, I also wanted to touch on the kind of axis of Smith, Farrell and Tuolangi, and I think everyone's going to pile on them and say, oh, we didn't see it, they didn't get them into the game enough. Again, this was never going to be the game where we saw Manu Tuolangi smashing through the whole time and that access working really smoothly. First of all, they haven't had enough game time together for that to happen, and second of all, we didn't have the conditions of it for it today. Alright, yes, the rain stopped by the time the game got underway, but the fact it had been so atrocious up until that point means that England had to be drawn into a tactical display. I thought there were times in the first half where the tactical kicking was actually okay from England. The issue, as I've already mentioned, was ultimately the restarts, and they immediately gave the ball back and they gave field position back to Argentina. And look, let's credit Argentina. They were in a bit of a tough place not so long ago. Michael Cheika has come in and has made a massive impact to that side. I was really impressed with their physicality, which you always expect from Argentina, but watching it up close from the touchline, the likes of Kramer and Matera and just what those boys bring, England dealt with it okay for periods of the game, but ultimately towards the end of the game and towards the second half, I thought you could tell that physicality was starting to have an impact on them. So look, credit to Argentina. Where do England go from here? Well, Eddie Jones has built this as a mini World Cup, essentially. They've structured it because Argentina is who they will face in the first pool stage of the World Cup. Japan is who they'll face in the second pool stage of the World Cup. That is who is going to be coming to Twickenham next week. Short turnaround from England. I asked Eddie Jones what's the message now? You've lost your first game. Does it become must win? And he kind of gave me an answer of, well, all games are must win. But given the fact that England are approaching this in a kind of World Cup way, I think it does become must win. Some people are going to start to want to see a performance from England. Of course, we'd like to see more of a performance, but I think it needs to start with a victory. You do not want to be going into games against New Zealand and against South Africa with 2 defeats against Japan and Argentina, because all of a sudden then your Autumn Nations series could quickly unravel in front of you. There are also going to be calls for Eddie Jones to go. That's not going to happen. We might as well stop those conversations now. He is going to be the man leading England through until the World Cup. You can accept that now, or you can keep moaning about it, but it's not going to change. Look, don't get me wrong. There are issues here for England. We need to see more from them in an attacking sense. That wasn't the game for it today, but we need to see them build that throughout the autumn. If we're still sat here at the end of the autumn and we're looking at an England side that haven't improved in an attacking sense, then it's a different conversation. But where we are at this moment in time, actually, I'm going to give them a bit of time. I'm going to just pump the brakes a little bit and say, let's give them time. If you look at the stats of the game today, England had far more of the ball. They had more line breaks. They just didn't finish those chances off. They do need to be more clinical. I'm personally giving them time, and I think I'm probably going to be going against the grain in terms of the reaction to this video. But hey, look, that's why we're here. Opinions are great, right? I'm going to call it there. They're slowly turning all the lights off here in Twickenham. It actually doesn't look too bad on the video, but it's getting pretty gloomy. So I'm going to head off. Remember, if you're new new here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video and drop a comment down below. What did you make of this England performance and this result? I think I can guess, but look, is there anyone in the comments that agrees with me and isn't necessarily hitting the nuclear panic button just yet? All right, that'll do from me. Another busy weekend coming up in terms of international rugby. I'm going to be in Cardiff on Saturday, so I'll look forward. I'll definitely do a video on that one. And see you in the next one.